This is Real News Media TV, coverage you can trust. Please like, share, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. Select all for daily news updates. Heed the implications of SOE judgment, JFJ urges government. Executive Director of Jamaicans for Justice, Michael Jackson, is urging the government to heed the judgment in the Rashawn Clark case and its implications regarding the continued use of states of public emergency to fight crime. The Supreme Court on Friday declared several provisions under the regulations governing states of emergency in 2018 as unconstitutional, unduly giving the authorities unfettered power to abrogate the fundamental rights of a wide class of persons in society without showing that they were reasonably justified for achieving the purposes of the measure. Ms. Jackson also told the news that she was alarmed at Friday's declaration of a state of public emergency in St. Catherine just ahead of the court's ruling. Jamaicans for Justice has also taken issue with a recent observation by Prime Minister Andrew Holness that the government's response to crime is being hindered by legal challenges and the constant debate about human rights. Ms. Jackson said these types of statements merely seek to excuse the government's failure to tackle crime.
In the Rashawn Clark matter, what we see is that, one, the regulations that are expected to govern the states of public emergency, it has not been publicized in a timely matter, though that is mandated by the Constitution. And we see where several constitutional rights of Mr. Clark were violated. The point of note here is that this is the second landmark ruling around the SOE in a matter of less than 2 years. We make reference to the Everton Douglas matter, where 5 men in that particular case were determined by the court to have been detained illegally by the state agents. For example, there were no clear evidence to suggest that the men were involved in any illegal activities whatsoever. We believe that the government ought to have taken pause before announcing the state of public emergency at 8:30, when it is that the country had expected to hear the ruling of the Rashawn Clark matter. And what that suggests is that the government has scant regard for the court and their independence and the decisions that they ought to see as binding somewhat or guiding them in how they utilize crime-fighting measures without trampling on the Constitution and the rights of the Jamaican citizenry. And we ought to be careful about statements that we make. We hear sentiments that justice should be blind. We agree with it, but we certainly disagree, because at times justice must be there. Because as much as though we want justice to treat persons equally, we can't be selective about what equality means. We must listen to the voices of the victims, but we must also respect the rights of the accused. And we cannot go down the slippery slope on the assumption that those who are presumed innocent ought to be treated guilty first. That goes against the fabric of the Constitution and what we mean by due process. And we are urging the government to be careful about those types of sentiments that it is making.
Lotto scamming cases flood court. Lotto scamming offenses, old and new, dominated the case list for the Westmoreland Circuit Court, which opened Monday, June 6. The illegal activity is followed by sexual offenses, a grim picture for the parish, which has, since the start of this year, been rocked by deadly gang feuds. However, the fact that more cases against the Lotto scammers are now before the court suggests that the police are having some success in tackling the practice that National Security Minister Dr. Horace Chang said is raking in some US $1 billion annually. As it stands this Easter term, there are a total of 298 cases listed for mention, of which 193 have been traversed from former sittings. The other 105 are new cases. On the traversed list, there are 64 murder cases compared to 68 cases of possession of identity information, which is an offense under the Law Reform Fraudulent Transactions Special Provisions Act, more commonly referred to as the lottery scamming law. According to Senior Superintendent of Police Wayne Josephs, the commanding officer for the Westmoreland Division, 42 of the remaining 61 cases on the traverse list are sexual offense matters, with the remaining 19 split between wounding, assault causing death by dangerous driving, and other offenses. In respect of the 105 new cases, 10 are for murder, 86 are Lotto scam offenses for mention, while the remaining 9 new cases include 8 sexual offense cases and 1 for arson. According to the Constabulary's Serious Crimes Report for Westmoreland for January 1 to June 16, 2022, and the comparative period in 2021, there were a total of 46 murders in that space last year this time, compared to 68 murders for the same period this year, a 47.8% increase. In respect of shootings, there were 58 for the January to June 16 period in 2021, compared to 60 for the comparative period this year, a 3.4% increase. Cases of people being injured for the 2021 period under review totaled 54, compared to 58 this year so far. For sexual offenses, there were 14 reported for that period in 2021, and 17 so far this year, a 21.4% increase. There were, however, decreases in robberies and break-ins, 32% and 41.9% respectively. The general age group of the offenders, who are mostly males, range from 20 to 35 years, the senior superintendent told the news. As it relates to the cases of breaches of the Law Reform Act on the list now, I think it's a combination of 2 things. I think, yes, there are more young people getting involved in this scamming activity, and on the other hand, the police have stepped up their effort in trying to make an impact on lottery scamming activities, so the police are making more cases, Joseph said. Additionally, the police, at the directive of the High Command, have been on a drive to target the lottery scammers in a coordinated way across the parishes where it is seen. A lot of the youngsters are getting involved in this kind of activity because they see their counterparts making money, driving high-end cars and flossing at the entertainment events and so on, so it is attracting them, and they have now gotten so socialized with getting this quick money that even if the powers that be were to provide 100% jobs now, a lot of those youngsters will not be interested, because the money that they would have to wait on for a weekly, fortnightly or monthly salary would not pique their interest, because that money is what they spend buying one drink at an event. So we have a very serious problem, Joseph told the news. He said the fight was harder because a lot of the parents and relatives, some of whom are supposed to be decent and well-thinking persons, have now become accepting of this kind of activity. Some of them don't see it as a crime, but this lottery scamming activity is also fueling the guns that come in, and by extension, the gun crimes. A lot of persons have now been accepting of it because they are benefiting in some way, because their son or grandson or nephew added on something to their house, or they are getting a chance to drive a car and they are enjoying the lifestyle, and they have now put the moral values aside. But it is also helping to finance gangs, and a lot of innocent lives have been impacted by this kind of activity, Senior Superintendent Joseph stated. He said the police have no intention of relenting and have added social intervention to their law enforcement efforts by partnering with a number of entities to reach the youngsters. The Community Safety and Security branch of the JCF does a lot of outreach programs, and we partner with entities like the Victim Services Division and the Child Protection and Family Services Agency, along with the Center for Investigation of Sexual Offenses and Child Abuse, Joseph said. We try to steer the youngsters in the right direction and show them a better side of lottery scamming. It may not be as flashy, but we try to show them how they can make better of their lives, Joseph added. Earlier this month, head of the Area 1 Police Division, Assistant Commissioner of Police Clifford Chambers, said gang activities and, to a lesser extent, domestic violence are fueling a spike in murders and shootings in Westmoreland. He noted that there are 7 areas in the parish: Kings Valley, Egypt Gardens, Ricketts River, Morgan's Bridge, Savannah Lamar, Grange Hill, and Frome that are considered to be hotspots for gang-related activity. There have been confrontations between the Darling Street, Dexter Street gang and the Kings Valley Ansett Posse gang, said Chambers, who also noted that the elite police squad has encountered some intra-gang conflict that is causing some tit-for-tat murders. Despite the climbing numbers, the police have been having some level of success, with Chambers crediting good intelligence for the arrest of 10 suspected members of the King Valley gang in May. Lotto scamming has long posed a problem for the Jamaican police, who over the years have been working with U.S. law enforcement agencies to arrest and, in some cases, extradite scammers to America for prosecution. In 2012, then Senior Superintendent Fitz Bailey told the news that Lotto scammers were living high on the hog, earning up to $10 million a week and using champagne to wash their cars in a boastful lifestyle, reflecting the ease with which they come by their ill-gotten gains. They literally burn money. There is a competition to see who can burn the most money. They use champagne to wash their cars. We know of one scammer who owns 7 posh houses, Bailey said at the time. He had also disclosed his team's seizure of a Lexus motorcar that was in the possession of an 18-year-old. The scammers, police say, are generally young and tech-savvy. On June 1, 2022, in his contribution to the sectoral debate in Parliament, Minister Chang said the island had seen a sharp 53% rise in murders in the 4 western parishes of Police Erawan, St. James, Trelawney, Westmoreland, and Hanover, resulting from the fight over US $1 billion or Jamaican $150 billion in lottery scamming money flowing into that section of the country annually. He said the lotto scamming, more formally referred to as advanced fee fraud, is fueling a rise in murders in deep rural areas as a change in criminal landscape presents a new headache for the government and the law enforcement agencies. Chang described the development as an emerging major crisis and warned that Jamaica's democracy was at risk. The challenge with advance fee fraud is that it is a white-collar crime, Chang said, and assured that local law enforcement agencies are working with their international partners, particularly in North America, where the victims are being extorted. We have made progress, but hundreds of people are involved, he said, while pointing out that dozens of scammers have been apprehended and some extradited. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. Select all for daily news updates.